The Talmud that has been redacted has no references to Yeshua. No references. They say the only place this Yeshua is mentioned is in the Brit Hadashah. Therefore, it's a single testimony. It's not valid. But the other Talmud by publishers, and I can find out which ones, or you could on the internet, that have not been redacted, have it all there. The Jewish people themselves, those who are today saying, this is just another attempt by the Catholics and Christians to create hatred, anti-Semitism, and blood libel. This is nothing but another middle-aged blood libel. What was a blood libel? That the Jews cannot celebrate Pesach without finding Christian blood and killing Christian babies to put the blood in the matzah. If they don't find Christian blood, they cannot celebrate Passover. That's not fine, because millions of Jews were killed because ignorant, peasant-minded, simple individuals used to kill Jews. My father wrote it down. My father was a very, very celebrated testimonial. Monica knows this, he would write down the names, right, and the addresses of all those in Lithuania, mostly Lithuania, and Poland, that killed Jews. It wasn't the Nazis, they didn't have to. They would go to the Polish or to the Lithuanians or to the Romanians and say, you like that farm? You like that house over there? It's yours. Here's a gun, shoot the Jewish family, you take it and it's yours. So the idea that the Nazis killed 6 million Jews is absolutely not true. The Nazis orchestrated the Holocaust and the genocide. But the Lithuanians and the Polish and the Romanians, they pulled the trigger. The collaborators. They pulled the trigger. The Nazis didn't kill 6 million by themselves.
That's right.
So it's the two houses, and it's like the same old. Instead of coming together in Yeshua and accepting the truth of His love and His unifying power, it's the two houses at each other's throats all over again. And other places in the Talmud, it calls Yeshua a sorcerer. Listen, there's another reference in the Talmud that calls Yeshua a sorcerer who learned his magic. They don't deny the miracles. They don't deny walking on water. They don't deny raising the dead. That he learned his miracles in Egypt, Mitzrayim, and took him back to the land of Israel. And he was being discipled as a very promising yeshiva student. This is in the Talmud. And he was in the yeshiva one day, and his mentor walked in the middle of the Shacharis, I believe. I'm not sure, but one of the 3 times a day, Shacharis, Mincha, Ma'ariv, when an Orthodox Jew, which Yeshua was an Orthodox Jew, prays. And he was caught red-handed. Not just caught, he was caught red-handed, worshiping a tile. Sanhedrin 29? He was caught worshiping a tile. Moreover, when he was caught worshiping a tile, okay, he was thrown out of the yeshiva, dismissed, and labeled a heretic to be condemned and tried for blasphemy. So for the Jewish people, like David Bernstein, of Woodward and Bernstein fame, of the Watergate fame, to come on television and say this is completely made up stuff. Everyone knows this is another medieval blood libel to condemn an entire race of people, an entire nation of people, are rejecting the testimony of the Talmud. The Jewish writings themselves portray the people of Israel as complicit with the Romans and the Gentiles.
That's right.
Not the Jews. The Jews did not kill Yeshua. Neither the evangelists teach that, or history teaches that. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. So, what's going on here? It's both houses fighting over the most important issue. One house says we have a king. The other house says the king hasn't come. One house says Yeshua is the manifestation of Yahweh. The other house says no, Yahweh has no form. Yahweh has no flesh. Yahweh has no corporal manifestation. Okay? I find it interesting, on a little side note. I find it interesting. And Rivka and I, when we had dinner the other night, we were numb. We were literally numb. We realized we had seen a tremendous work, a tremendous film. We didn't pick up on the blatant anti-Semitism that a lot of people were talking about. We didn't pick up on it. But there were enough things in the film that were disturbing, and I pointed it out to her, and she pointed it out to me. And as I said in my editorial, a Jew hater, someone who hates the Jews, will take this film and maybe twist it, pervert it, and maybe persecute, malign, or even beat up, torture, and kill Jews. Because that anti-Semite, his hatred was further fueled by the passion. He was already a Jew hater before he went into the movie. This movie can, because the unregenerate mind, the darkened mind, doesn't take much to kick it into gear and to kick it into action. So let me balance everything that I've said. Historically, it is kosher. Historically, it is a good movie. It may be the best ever made of the last few hours and days of Yeshua. But that doesn't remove the danger. Now, this film will play well in America, because in America, Christians don't go into the Passion, come out, hop in a car, and look for Jews to beat up and to rape. We don't have that here. We've never had that in 240 years. But in Europe, now, see, that's the danger. This film in Europe, and I think Brother Brian mentioned this to me in the car on the way home. Are you back there, man? Yeah, he mentioned this to me in the car on the way home last week. He says, you watch, Rabbi, here's what they're going to do in Europe. They're going to take this film, they're going to put it together as a double feature with the Elders of the Protocol of Zion. Okay, how many have heard of that lie, that book, and the film, The Protocol of the Elders of Zion, about the Jews run the banks, the Jews run Hollywood, the Jews run the world. You know, they're behind everything. They control the newspapers, they control the media, okay? And the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, a proven falsehood, a proven fabrication by those who put the stupid thing out, but regardless. So in Europe, this film can cause some serious problems, because Europe is a Yahweh forsaken place. Listen very carefully, so make sure you understand my speech. It is cursed by Yahweh. Nothing spiritual can grow in Europe, which is why all the Catholic churches are tourist attractions. They're mausoleums. The Bible-believing churches like Spurgeon's Metropolitan Tabernacle is closed. No one shows up there. On a good Sunday, they get 20, 25 people. The great revivalists that came out of England and Europe, those days are gone. There are basically no Bible-believing congregations in Europe. They start and they don't survive because people don't show up, people don't care. Yahweh has cursed Europe. I mean cursed. So anybody who sows money to win souls in Europe and to preach the good news in Europe, it's a waste of time, because it is under a divine curse for two reasons. The blood of Jewish Israel cries out to Yahweh for revenge from that turf, from that earth, not to mention a million other reasons. Rejecting, to whom much is given, much is required. Macedonia, Greece, okay? All these areas were the first recipients of the good news. They had a head start on the good news. They had a wonderful personal encounter with the apostles themselves. They were visited by the shlichim, not by popes, which was later in the Middle Ages in 300-400 CE, but the actual shlichim of Yeshua, who saw the Master, who lived with the Master, and who actually were on the Damascus Road and had met Yeshua. They were sent to Europe. They had seen firsthand and witnessed firsthand the message and the miracles of the shlichim. And Yahweh said, and after all that, you turned your back on me, you turned your back on truth, and then you killed my chosen. You helped in the pogroms and the crusades and the murders of my chosen people. I will withdraw my spirit. So if you have relatives in Europe, they're not going to make it. They're not going to make it. I'm very sorry. Unless some miracle Yahweh visits them personally. So if they have a personal visitation from Yahweh, that's different. But notwithstanding a personal visitation, they're not going to make it. It is Yahweh has cursed the continent of Europe. We pursue. Now we continue. So, that's the danger, brothers and sisters. It's not Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson did not put Jews in that crowd yelling for Barabbas. Mel Gibson didn't do that. John did that. Matthew did that. Mark did that. So if you're going to blame somebody, blame the authors of the Brit Chadashah. Now, if you're going to blame the authors of the Brit Chadashah, then you don't believe in the Brit Chadashah. You don't trust the Brit Chadashah. And it wasn't the Jews, we're going to find out soon. It was the Judeans in the crowd and the leaders of the Jews, while the other Jews were writing the New Testament, and the other Jews were following Yeshua, and the other Jews, and the movie portrays this. Okay? And Mel Gibson, I felt, was fair, whether he's a Catholic or not. If I'm going to say I cannot receive this film because he's a Catholic, and because it came out on Ash Wednesday, okay, it was well timed to come out on Ash Wednesday, so I reject the entire film, I reject the entire premise, I can't receive it, then I'm not being a very fair critic, and I'm not playing with equal weights and measures, and I'm not treating someone else the way they ought to be treated, which is to judge them by the word of Yahweh and not by whether they're a Catholic or a Protestant. I wouldn't want someone to judge me because I'm a particular type of Jew. Well, Rabbi Moshe is not an Orthodox Lubavitch Jew. He's a particular type of Jew, so I reject him and everything he ever said. Everything he ever said. Everything he ever produced. Every tape he ever made. I reject him because he's not my kind of Jew. He's not the kind of Jew that I approve of. I only approve of certain kinds of Jews. So if he's Catholic, and he could put together a movie that is pretty true to the facts, who am I to argue with that? Let me share a couple other things with you. So I'm not going to hold, because I wouldn't want someone to say, I'm not going to be open to Rabbi Moshe's teachings. He's not the right kind of Jew. He's one of those Nazarene Israelite Jews. Okay? So the Jews did not kill Yeshua, but they were there that day, unfortunately, as were the Romans. Unless you want to deny the Jewish writings, Sanhedrin 29, is it? You want to deny the Sanhedrin 29, Sanhedrin 43b, where the Jewish writers said, we tried him and we found him guilty. And now, today, they're blaming Mel Gibson. You see? You see? He's trying to blame the Jews for the death of Christ. No, he's not. He's portraying the Gospels to the best of his ability. Tell you something else. If the Catholics were really behind this film, do you think it would be in Aramaic? If the Catholics were really the Freemasons, come on, Rabbi, you got to get with the program. It's the Freemasons with the Catholics, with the Bilderbergers, with the Council on Foreign Relations. You got to read Tex Mars. Okay, now if all that's true, then wouldn't you expect this film would not be made in Aramaic? Then if the Catholics are behind this, and this is another medieval blood libel, then wouldn't you expect Miriam to be talking Latin? Instead, at the beginning of the film, Ma nishtana halayla hazeh mikol halayla shebechol halaylot anu ochlim chametz u'matzah. She's singing for the Passover Haggadah. When was the last time the Pope sang in Hebrew? Not only that, the movie begins in the Gan Shemen, in the Garden of Gethsemane, under, lo and behold, a full moon, when Pesach must be held on the night of the 14th, approaching the 15th of the month, under, the first thing you see when the film opens, under a full moon. And before that, you see Isaiah 53. He was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. Most Catholics don't even bother using the Old Testament.
That's right.
So the film begins with Isaiah 53. It puts Pesach not on Easter Sunday, but under a full moon. So this is this is an extremely accurate portrayal. Is it perfect? No. Just like when you pay your $6 and you go and sit there, you're an imperfect person watching an imperfect producer.
That's right.
You're not perfect either, neither am I. Overall, it is not a Catholic film or a Protestant film. It portrays the events. Now, again, we balance that by saying, can this film cause trouble? Absolutely. Big time. Because 2 hours in a movie theater is not going to take a Semite or a pro-Semite and turn them into an anti-Semite. And it's not going to take an anti-Semite and turn them into a lover of the Jewish people. 2 hours doesn't do that. Only Yeshua's blood does that. So my premise is that the way a person goes in is the way they come out. But we got to be careful. This thing is not going to play well in Europe, and it could be very dangerous. Now, is that Mel Gibson's fault? Did he make this film to find a way to rile up the papists in Europe to persecute Jews? Is that why Mel Gibson made it? I don't believe that was. Only Yahweh knows a man's motivation. True? Only Yahweh knows a man's heart. So don't listen to everything you hear. Watch the movie. Look, compare it to the Bible. Make your judgment. Watch the movie. Compare it to the scriptures. Make your judgment. Don't make it on any authority other than the authority of the word of Yahweh. Fair enough?
Yes.
Because we're listening to stuff, and one final thing before we get into the meat. That was the shank ball. They're talking about violence. Have you heard some of the things about violence? This is not for your children. This is not for kids. You heard that? Really? Really? Not for kids, huh? No. Too much violence. Too much blood. Okay? But Deep Throat, kids watch Deep Throat, the biggest pornography movie of all time.
That's for sure.
They can rent that at most video stores. Not Blockbuster, but most video stores. Violence? How about half of the other gentleman's movies? I'm not good, not Mel Gibson, but another gentleman. Kevin Costner. His movies. You ever see Kevin Costner's movies? What Hollywood movie, what Hollywood film is not saturated with meaningless violence, the kind of violence to titillate the human emotion onto further, it's a love for gore, it's a love for blood. Hollywood, to come against this film, due to its violent content, is the biggest, ultimate in hypocrisies that the human mind can even conjure. This is the capital of smut. This is the capital of violence, where blood flows from every movie. And now, all of a sudden, don't take your children to see The Passion, because there's too much blood. Well, the blood in this movie is blood with a purpose. It is blood with redemption. It is the greatest story ever told. What they're saying is, we don't want you checking out blood with a purpose. We don't want you checking out blood with redemption, quality. We don't want you checking out blood that leads to eternal life. We want you to succumb to and consume our blood, which is meaningless violence and bloodletting for the sake of the insatiable appetite of a carnal, worldly crowd. You take our blood, but not the blood of the Son of Yahweh. We'll produce the blood. We'll bathe your children in violence, gang mentality, murder, robbery, thievery. The worst kind, the worst defilement that man can perpetrate on his fellow man. When we approve it, when it's made by the official studios of Hollywood, and it's officially distributed through the official distribution networks that we approve of, not Mel Gibson's own distribution network of evangelical Christians, then we've approved that blood for your family and your children, despite the everlasting repercussions and damage that does to young children. That's what that's all about. So next time you hear somebody say, it's too gory, it's too bloody, I can tell you it is equally gory as all the filth they produce. But see, they've approved that. They haven't approved this. See, because Mel Gibson went outside the camp. You understand what I'm saying? He didn't seek their approval. He didn't seek their studios. He didn't seek their commercial. There's no commercial advertising. It's mostly word of mouth. Okay? So all of a sudden, isn't it funny? People that never mention violence, people that have no concern for the protection of your children so they don't see violent images on television and on the screen. They got no problem with the Janet Jackson at the Super Bowl at halftime and Howard Stern. They got no problem with any of that. Okay, they have no problem with J-Lo on the red carpet tomorrow night in the Oscars with one boob hanging out, one boob floating around the moon. They got no problem with that. Tune in, bring the family, make sure the kids are there. It starts early, don't miss anything. It's so filthy and vile, and there's so much flesh being paraded that they have a 5-second delay because any of these bozos are liable to pull anything off or say anything. So this year at the Oscars, they have a 5-second delay. Now all of a sudden, these people are coming out of the woodwork. Too violent, leave the kids at home. You know what they're saying? We haven't approved this blood for your children. You go to the blood of Miramax and the blood of the official Hollywood studios that's been approved for your children. Okay? That's what they're saying. Is it a bloody, terrible, terrible 2 hours? It is. It's atrocious. But the question we have to ask ourselves is, did it come true? Was that a true account? Is it faithful to the text? Now, if you don't appreciate that kind of depiction, you have the right to stay home. But you don't have the right to make a judgment on something that you haven't seen yourself. You don't have that right. I've seen it. And most of these people, especially the very pro-Torah folks on the internet, haven't even seen it. They haven't even seen it. But look how I'm trying to be balanced. I will not say the film is no good because Mel Gibson happens to be a Catholic. I won't say that. And I won't say there won't be there could be some serious repercussions against Jewish people. But what does that mean? I don't live in Europe. My children don't live in Europe.
Amen.
If there's something I can do for Europeans not to see this film, I'll do it. Because I don't trust them. They killed my people. They shot my grandparents. I don't much appreciate a lot of those folks. If there's something I can do to stop them from seeing it, I will do it. But why should I withhold that truth from Nina when she sees stuff worse on MTV? And all these self-righteous folks, they're coming out of the woodwork. Politicians, now they're talking about movies. All of a sudden, they're movie experts. I haven't heard of David Bernstein since Watergate. Now all of a sudden, he's an offended Jew. Really? You're offended, huh? Yes, it's just gore for the sake of gore, blood for the sake of blood. It has no purpose. They say Yeshua's life is not accurately portrayed, his love, his message, his miracles, only focusing in on the blood. A, that's not true. The resurrection appears at the end of the movie.
Hallelujah.
B, you have flashbacks to the Seder. C, you've got people talking in Aramaic. And I'll go right into the word with this. But if nothing else, can we talk?
Let's talk.
Can we talk?
Let's talk.
I cannot listen to Christian music anymore. I can't. There's so much Jesus, Lord, God. I can't listen to it. I'd rather listen to Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons and Simon and Garfunkel. And you come to my house. Not that I'm well, brother. Let me tell you about Rabbi Moshe. I caught him listening to the Little Rascals. No, you don't have to catch me. I'm telling everybody. All you folks that order the videotapes, there you are. I listen to secular music. How did that happen?
Oh my goodness.
How did that happen?
Pray for him.
No, I didn't. When I was in the church, I didn't. But now that I don't want to use those names, I'm listening to music. At least I'm not quenched. It's talking about commitment and some other things that are decent. Okay? So, this is a film. I'm sitting down with my wife. How many of you know my wife? That's right. We ordered a barrel of popcorn, and I didn't eat anything. I mean, do not if you like popcorn in a movie, it's not going to go down well. You won't be eating, trust me. You might buy a little box of licorice, it'll just sit there, you'll take it home and put it in the fridge. Okay? So, we're sitting there and I'm like, are you Yeshua of Nazareth? Benanash. Barinash, the Son of Man. Barinash. Rav. And Judas. And I hear them talking Aramaic. And here's a movie that millions of Christians and their pastors and their churches, for the first time in their life, are going to hear Yeshua's real name. Now, if that's Catholic, give me more Catholicism. Every believer from John Hagee's church, from every church in this nation and around the world, for 2 hours, will hear Yeshua. When Yeshua's on the tree, he goes, Elia, Elia, lama azavtani. You hear the name of Yahweh. All the movies I've ever seen. My God, my God. Now Christians, for the first time, are going to hear Yahweh's name when Yeshua's on the tree. How can you and I ever accomplish to get millions, change that, hundreds of millions in the future on DVD? To know the true, their pastor won't teach them the true name. Listen, their pastor won't teach them the true name. Their Sunday school teacher won't teach them the true name. When they go, they'll see that not one person. Listen, you know what Peter is called in the movie? Kepha. And the cross, Yeshua looks down and says, Yochanan. Yochanan, not John. Yochanan. Hey, when I heard that, and I looked at Rivka, I said, Rivka, do you realize this? For the first time, there's a movie that actually shows Christians that Yeshua was that Yeshua, they didn't call him Jesus Christ. They called him Yeshua. And it's in the movie. And we don't have to do anything.
Hallelujah. Oh, hallelujah.
But all that I've said to say this. Today's message. Who killed Mashiach? Come on, somebody. Baruch Hashem Yahweh. Who killed Mashiach? Turn with me, please, to the Bisarot. According to Rav Shaul in his epistle to the Israelite assembly in 1 Corinthians 6. 1 Corinthians 1. 1 Corinthians 1. Baruch Hashem Yahweh. You guys will be, half of you wants to smile and say, oh, Yeshua, oh, Kifa, Yochanan. You're hearing it as it really happened. Now let me ask you a question. Now, before we get into this, honestly, let us be honest. If the Catholic Church was behind this movie, would Kifa be Kifa or Peter?
Saint Peter.
Simon Peter. Saint Peter. Yeshua would look down from the tree and go, Saint John, I want you to kiss Saint Mama. Let's grow up. Let's take our blessings any way we can get them.
That's right. That's right.
I don't have 25 million to produce this film.
That's right.
Would it be better for a Nazarene Israelite to produce it? Yes. But who am I to choose who Yahweh uses?
That's right.
And if the New World Order is going to use this to unite all religions, well, he's not doing a very good job, because the two houses are getting angrier at each other, not less angrier. So those are, don't you know, Rabbi Moshe, you're blind, man. Don't you know that the New World Order is going to use this film to bring together all religions? Really? Well, I'm still waiting for the first two people that it's going to bring together. It hasn't caused more division in religious circles than any other movie in history. It has caused more division. than any other movie in religious history. 1 Corinthians 1:18. But I'll tell you what it will do. You want to know the truth? It'll have hundreds, if not thousands, of Christians going to their pastor and saying, Pastor, what I just saw, is that true? Yes. Then why do we call him Jesus Christ?
Hallelujah.
Now the pastor's going to be doing some overtime counseling. That's what's going to happen from this movie in America. Now it's true, let's balance that. We have to pray, and we have to pray Yahweh's covering and protection in Europe. In Israel, this will be very well received, by the way. I want you to know that. Israelis are hungry in a society of drugs and prostitution and secularism, which Israel is. It's a secular society. People are hungry for spiritual truth. This will go down 1,000,000 times better in Israel than in Europe. 1,000,000 times. Israel's not going to have a problem with this. Shouldn't that tell you something? When this is played in Israel, they're not going to have a problem with this. Europe is where the problem has always been. There wouldn't be a USA if there wasn't a problem with religious freedom in Europe. The very fact that there's a problem with religious freedom is why we have a USA. 1 Corinthians 1:18. For the word of the cross. Now I'm going to be using the cross today on purpose, okay? The word of the cross, not the stake, the execution stake. I'm going to use it because we're talking about Mel Gibson's The Passion. For the word of the cross is foolishness to those who perish. But to us who are being saved, it is the power of Elohim. Now jump down to verse 23. Yet we proclaim Mashiach, impaled, crucified, to the Yehudim a stumbling block. You know what we're seeing now? With these cries of anti-Semitism, anti-Jew, Jew hatred. The cross remains a stumbling block. Christian, take that thing out of my face. Take that blood out of my face. Don't give me that blood libel. Don't blame me for the death of your God. We're seeing it all over again, aren't we?
That's right.
It remains a stumbling block. It's not the violence with the children. The message of the death of Moshiach itself, the word of Yahweh says, is a stumbling block to the Jews, watch, and to the Greeks, it's foolishness. Do we see that in the critics of this movie? Do we see that? All the Greek critics are saying, too bloody, leave your children home. This shouldn't be X-rated, it's a stupid movie, makes no sense. It hides his message, it hides his love, it hides his whole life, it hides the true meaning. It's foolishness. This has no redeeming value. No, there's no redeeming value in these 2 hours. It's nothing but blood and gore for 2 hours. Do you really want to sit through blood and gore for 2 hours? So to them, this is a foolish production by a foolish man who has gone off on a foolish tangent. That's the Greeks. All the heathens. This is stupidity. Why waste $6 when you can go see Aladdin? Why waste $6 when you can go see
Dinosaurs.
that little green guy in the cartoon that came out a year ago? What's his name? Or Toy Story. You can go see Toy Story. You can take the whole family and watch robots walk and watch cowboys and Indians shoot each other. Oh, that's not violence, though? You don't want that kind of, because that's approved violence. We've approved that.
Talk about it.
Okay? If you're gonna say, I'm not going to Mel Gibson's movie.